My name is Carrie Willigan. I'm the Director of Career Services for the School of Business, and we're thrilled you're here. We have the wonderful Ask the Professional Finance panel for you today, and these people are all here to talk to you. So ask your questions. This is a kind of a safe space to ask those questions about the career field and the industries that they're representing. Professor Steve Pilloff is going to be our moderator for today, so the panel will last about an hour, and then we have some time at the end for networking. So I'm going to turn it over to Professor Pilloff. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Before we get started, just out of a show of hands, I'm curious, how many of you guys are finance majors or want to be finance majors? So it's a pretty good turnout. Accounting, management, marketing, ISOM. So nice mix. Give the panelists a chance to get a sense of who they're talking to. So the first question that I'm going to throw to the panel is to help you guys get to know them, to ask you guys to introduce yourself, talk a little bit briefly about your job and the area that you work in, and as well as your connection to Mason. So we could start with Chima and work our way down.
Hi, guys. My name is Chima Fakak. I'm a George Mason alumni. For my undergraduate degree, I did a double degree in management and finance with a minor in economics. After that, I went ahead to work at Accenture Federal Services. I've been there for about 4 years now since graduating. Since then, I've actually done my MBA at Virginia Tech. But now I do pricing for proposals over at Accenture. So it is a government contractor. Work on providing financial analysis, working on figuring out deliverables, the price to win, the proposal from the government, and that's what I do today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny Tang. I graduated with a major in finance and from School of Business in May 2014, and then a month later. I start working as also another pricing analyst at another government contracting firm called CGI Federal. I spent about 2 years working there. After that, I received my acceptance letter and from Columbia University, and then I am currently now a graduate student at Columbia University studying analytics. Thank you.
Morning, guys. How's everybody doing? Good? Good. This first and foremost, this is really, really, really cool. Appreciate you guys having us out here, and good to meet you guys. We'll be spending a little time afterwards, and we'd love to chat it up on any questions that you guys have, obviously for the panel, but also individually as well. My name's Aubrey Rosser. I'm the managing director for Northwestern Mutual in our Tyson's office. I went to Emory and Henry College down in southwestern part of Virginia, where I'm from. Majored in mathematics and economics, and then transitioned to New York and did my graduate degree at NYU, and finished that in 2006, worked on the street as an analyst, and then something called 2008 happened, and was laid off, and so pretty interesting time, to be in finance. And then transitioned to Northwestern Mutual in 2009 in Manhattan. I've been at Northwestern since then, and then relocated down to the area where my wife is from. She won that battle, but love Northern Virginia. I'm from Southern Virginia, and really, really excited to be here, and happy to answer any questions. Thanks for having us.
Hello. All right. Hey, guys. How's everyone doing? Thanks for having us. Thanks for coming out. My name is Amante DiCastro. I work with Whitlock Wealth Management. It's a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial. So Ameriprise Financial is a Fortune 500 company. I initially started with the company when it was American Express Financial Advisors back in 2004. 2005, it changed its name to a brand new name I had never heard of. So that was an interesting time. So don't join a company just for the name. Join the company for what it stands for. So I'm a licensed stockbroker, licensed life insurance agent. But really what I specialize in is personal financial advice, financial planning. I am a licensed CFP, so certified financial planner. And again, that's a little bit different than just being a stockbroker or a life insurance agent. It's really helping people figuring out where they are today. Maybe I'm just graduating college. I have some student loans I want to pay off. I want to buy a home. I want to get married. And then I want to retire at some point in time. Well, what do you have to do to accomplish those things? So I help people create a plan in order to do that. Whitlock Wealth Management, we're a private wealth advisory practice, like I said, so that puts us somewhere in the top 2.5%, 3% of the company. Large team, and I love what I do. Thanks for having me.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Herndon. I'm a native of the area. I've been here 66 years, and I've seen everything change. I remember when this school was UVA, and that's where I went to school. I majored in physics, and a lot of good that did me. I ended up going into retail for a long time, and when I became a single parent, I decided I needed time with my family, needed to find an industry that would work and give me time off. And I found financial services, and I went with Mutual Omaha. I've looked at many large companies. They've been around since 1909, and they're developing. They're actually going through a name change now and becoming Mutual Omaha Advisors. But our job is basically finding money for people, trying to help them grow their wealth, minimize taxes. We work with businesses as well as small people, individuals. And it's a rewarding career. I've been here, like I say, all my life, and I've never found anything I enjoyed more in doing what I do. But I'm looking forward to help you all or answer any questions you might have on what you're looking to do. It's a wonderful career if this is something that you're looking for. All right, thanks.
So before I throw out the next question of the panel, you guys are already ahead of me. I was going to invite folks down. If you don't want to stand, there's a bunch of empty seats up front. There's a seat in the third row if you don't want to sit up front, but you're welcome to stand if you want, but I know I wouldn't want to stand for an hour and a half, so there's definitely some chairs up here if you want. So to help the students get an idea of what life is like working, I was wondering if you could talk about a typical day for you, for someone in your firm, in your area, at the entry level, and then also a little bit higher up as they might advance through their career. And why don't we start with David and then work our way down this way.
So you're looking at, rephrase that again?
So basically kind of what a typical day would be for someone who is entry level in your field, as well as someone who is a little bit higher up.
Okay. For people coming in, our job is sourcing people, and the unfortunate part in the world out there, about 99% of the people need our help. The problem is they don't know it. So our job is trying to find people that are interested in trying to help their situation and helping them that way. So. For a new person is networking, finding people that are interested in talking and trying to figure out what their problems are and try to find a solution that works for them. As far as progression goes, there's many paths in this industry that you can do. You can go and grow your industry designations, become a certified financial planner. There's a gazillion industry designations that are college worthy that you would achieve, or you can go into management if you want to go that avenue and become corporate. That's an opportunity as well. But the growth is going on. As a manager, of course, the job is helping my subordinates understand what they need to do and help them, guide them, and grow their practice. It's a little bit of an entrepreneurial position because we get to run our own show. That's kind of a nice feature. It's also a little bit of a danger side of the business because you have to have a good work ethic to do the job.
Good answer. I chuckle a little bit at what a typical day looks like. When you're dealing with other people's money, I don't think any day is very typical. Every day kind of has its unique challenges, and every person has their unique circumstances. So I think, though, if I was to broadly break it down, I think there's probably three major parts, like my colleague said. First is you have to find people. People don't just say, hey, I have millions of dollars, and I have no idea what to do. They don't let a lot of people know that. You kind of got to find those people and help educate them. Let them know what they don't know. So there's a big part of our business, which is marketing, prospecting, finding new people. That's one element. Then the next element would be managing those relationships. So you got to do the work that people hire you to do. You got to analyze the situation. You got to know the products and services that are available, and you got to align those and explain that is a big part. Giving an education to the client about what this is, what it can do for them, how it fits into their situation. And then maybe the third part would just be monitoring that whole system, because it doesn't just happen every day unless you're at the helm. Again, you got to have a good work ethic So a typical day is interesting. I mean, my January 1st and my February 1st, or January 5th, I should say, and February 1st were two very different days. But you got to go out, meet people. You got to do your job that the clients hire you to do, and you got to monitor those relationships and make sure that things that you said and set up and put in place are still happening the way they should be.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better. That's, I think both my colleagues here are spot on with that. We're in financial services, so a lot of the dialogue and is going to be vastly similar. I know at Northwestern, again, there's not a typical day per se, but there's typical structure, right? And so the idea behind that is, having, if we're taking the path of an advisor or a CFP, there's going to be that entrepreneurial spirit where you are seeking to grow, build, and sustain relationships. We also have a planning team path, which is more of the analysis, and where you're doing the underlying or the behind-the-scenes work, putting plans together, whether that's on the risk management side, asset accumulation, distribution side, where you are working with tax-efficient ways to tax-efficient strategies and ways that you can ultimately help the clients in ways that they wouldn't have been helped without the relationships on this side.
For me, that about 2 years ago as a pricing analyst, you have to be very good at time management. You also have to learn, you have to be a very fast learner. In the beginning, there's a bell curve because the nature of pricing analyst in a government contracting, there isn't a course called government contracting in the field of finance at George Mason. So you have to be very capable of learning fast, be a quick thinker, and managers actually do not like to micromanage their employees. So you have to be always a very self-disciplined person, and you have to be very good at Excel. I cannot emphasize how important Excel is in the field of finance or pricing proposals. So that's what I think entry-level employees.
Well, not to sound redundant, but as someone who also works in pricing and work more on the corporate finance side as opposed to financial services, at Accenture, you come in as an analyst. Your first thing that you're thrown into is lots of training, with government contracting and so on. But typically, your typical day to day is, depending where you are within finance. Or really any position, since it is a technology consulting company, is that you are encouraged to attend networking events after hours, get to know people, and also take the initiative to learn more about your client, your project, and so you're well aware of all the different aspects of the project that you're on. But at the end of the day, from my experience working at Accenture, is what you make your day to be. And again, it goes back to time management, and what you're willing to put in is, at the end of the day, is what's going to benefit you. So,
thanks. So this got touched on a little in the last question, but I'll ask you guys to expand on this one, and then we can start with Aubrey and then cycle this way. What are some of the topics or skills, et cetera, that you learned in your finance classes, or in your case, maybe math or econ classes, that were most valuable when you started in your job and that are most valuable now in your current position? So it's really kind of about some of the technical kinds of things.
No, I think that's certainly a great question. And just for clarification, a third of my classes were at NYU were in Stern. I realized that my specialty was economics, and then I just started to realize this is way too much theory for me. I need a little more applied economics and applied finance. And so strategically, they allow for a third of your classes outside the econ program, and it was all finance. And I think, so with that said, there are two thoughts that I think I can speak to on that. One is the actual material that we're learning in class. My corporate finance class was immediately applicable right into going into corporate investment banking. I kept all my notes and I used all those notes. I never thought that would happen, but it certainly was that direct transition from corporate finance into CIB. With that said, part two was what I learned was more, or what's applicable now is more along the lines of the relationships. And, being in class, the group projects, the networking, really leveraging that and how I was able to transition that into the working world. Because ultimately, in the workspace, relationships are equally, if not more important than when you're in class. And again, I know that might not be the exact answer you're looking for as far as the exact material, but what I gained from that experience is the relationships that are going to help you grow in the corporate world are equally as important as the material that you're learning. It's not more important. Okay, we have to have that foundation. We have to have the structure and the knowledge. Okay, so we can put ourselves in position to do so. But ultimately, when you combine the material and the relationship that you're building, that our colleagues talked about here, the after hours, the networking, et cetera, phenomenal way to grow in the profession. And I think I've rambled on a little bit, but hopefully that helps answer the question. It's a combination of both the material and I keep your notes for sure, and because there will be a reference point.
So again, I'm a personal financial advisor, a private wealth advisor. So what I do is I talk to clients, and I think I act kind of as a bridge. So my clients don't necessarily want to know. Let me take a step back. I need to know what's going on in the markets. I need to know what's going on with tax reform and all these sort of things. So I talk to economists, I talk to portfolio managers, and they talk their own language. They talk the language of numbers, and I need to understand all that stuff. But my clients don't want to hear that same talk that the economist or the portfolio manager told me. So I need to be able to, just like a good teacher, and the best way to know you know a subject is if you can teach it. So just like your teachers are so intertwined in, they can break down a subject simply to you, I have to be able to do the same thing. So it's very important that you understand these financial concepts, the economic concepts. So when you're talking to the people who you want to talk to, the portfolio managers, the economists, you can understand and formulate your own thoughts on where things are going, where the trends are, what to be concerned about, and you can ask appropriate questions. But you also need to be able to understand how to translate to who my end user is, or clients who weren't econ majors or finance majors and don't want to know all the nuances. They just kind of want to know, explain it to me simply, what does this mean to me, what should I be doing?
Thanks.
Aubrey probably said it best in the sense that this is a business of relationships. So going to school away from home, some of you are away from home, I assume, you learn how to meet people and talk to them. I've sat on some advisory panels for schools, and one of the things I've talked about in the past is one of the things they don't teach is people skills. So that's something you need to learn. In terms of what you learn, the aptitude is high. I often say learning our industry is like drinking out of a fire hydrant. You gulp down what you can every day because there's a lot to learn, and it's an ongoing process. I'm still learning, and I've been doing this for a couple weeks at least. Okay? But what you pick up in school, is your learning skills. First of all, is how you're going to apply yourself. How do you embrace your learning? Is it something you feel is a chore, or is it something you really enjoy? And that's one thing you really have to have in any career you go into. I don't care what it is. You're going to have to love what you do and want to do it. And wake up every morning not saying, not another day again. Right? It's the best career I've ever been in. I enjoy this tremendously. It fits me personally. But yes, your skills that you learn in school are going to be very important to you because that's going to be going. Your learning process as well as your relationships.
Well, as far as pricing goes, you need to be an expert in Microsoft Excel as far as technical skills go. It's something that I use every single day. I have to, figure out how to use formulas sometimes to break down. Sometimes I'll have a sales lead that comes to me and says, Chima, I need to see this broken out, in so-and-so. And so I have to come up with some formula that's going to help me do my math. And, as they come up with changes, it just automatically updates as opposed to me going in manually and doing it all the time. It just makes your life easy. I know in pricing, part of your interview is an Excel interview. And so I cannot stress it anymore, especially in finance in general. No matter where you go, I think you need to be, well-versed in Excel. Aside from technical skills, would really emphasizing in Excel, I definitely will also say people skills and networking. Working for a company that has, over 400,000 employees, it's your number one, basically skill that you need to carry with you at all times. Be able to speak with anybody. And also Accenture is the type of company where if you walk into our office, in our building or office, there's no manager has their own office. It's all open seating, so you sit next to whomever's sitting next to you. You have no idea who's going to be sitting next to you. So being people friendly, being able to, pick up a conversation of whoever's sitting next to you, will definitely help you along the way.
So, like she said, I absolutely do agree. Microsoft Excel is very, very crucial in the pricing field and government contracting. If you can get certified, that'd be great. Microsoft Excel do issue certifications so that you could bring that certification onto the table when we have a job interview. And then many of you, I don't know. One thing that I have always regret now that I'm a graduate student is that I should have learned some programming languages such as R and Python. Because I realize that a lot of times, as she may have experience as well, Microsoft Excel can only handle so much programming skills necessary, and something that I regret, and I wanted you all to know. And I also agree with many other people have said, and which is the soft skills. And I think many of you have also heard in the news that artificial intelligence is gaining momentum. And the thing that separates human beings, all of us, against robots and artificial intelligence is the EQ. So do go out, and I'm very happy that I'm seeing all of you guys here, because robots can't compete against us with EQ. EQ that separates us from robots. Thank you.
Thanks. There was a lot of great stuff in there as far as technical skills, Excel, R, Python. I know that comes up in a lot of finance classes. The other thing that I thought was really interesting that you guys talked about was having a deep understanding of what you're doing so you can communicate it. I think a lot of times when students are in class, they're just focused, and also having a love of learning. Students are sometimes focused on just kind of getting the answer right for the test. But as you can see, professional success means really embracing what you're learning and then understanding it so well that you can then explain it to a different audience in a different way so that they understand it. And also just the relevance of the things that you guys are learning in class. So I thought that those were some really, really good answers to help you guys see how what you're doing now can really tie into what comes next. I have another question. Chima, you sparked me to think this would be a good one to ask next. What makes the firm that you work for either special or unique place to work? You cannot answer the people. So you got to come up with something else besides the people that you think makes where you work special or unique. So we might as well start. You look like you're ready to go. So we'll start with Chima and then work our way up.
Okay. Well, all right. So aside from the people, I personally love the company because of all the different things that I was able to do for myself and, help me in my career. When I was talking about earlier about the power of networking, it's helped me tremendously. When I first started with Accenture, I was not even doing a finance role. I was a functional analyst on the healthcare.gov project, which is also known as the Obamacare project. So I was writing requirements for the small business portion of a website. As a finance major, I had no idea what I was doing. But I learned a lot. And so that's another thing is, I learned a lot, and the people there really helped me, figure out what I was doing. And what I love about the company is all the different opportunities that it has for you to network and get to know other people and find different positions. So when I found myself unhappy and I just didn't want to, set that as my career track, I started going to more networking events and getting to know more people. One of the events I went to is Day of Service, which is another thing that really means a lot for me, is a lot of the community work that Accenture focuses on. And so I went to Day of Service at a homeless shelter in Reston, and who was on my team is the CFO of Accenture Federal Services. And she's very down-to-earth woman, super cool. And, here I am telling her I want to get back in finance. That's really my field. I want to get hands-on. I don't want to be writing, requirements anymore. And she just said, send me your resume. And I did. And here I am in pricing today. when I was on the healthcare.gov project, I wanted to go back to school, and that is a high visibility project. But I thought, this is crazy. I'm not going to be able to do it. The hours are kind of random. Sometimes I have to pull overnights, to get the website ready on time. And I noticed a lot of the managers there would just leave out of nowhere. It's 5 p.m. and we're getting ready to, put out a deliverable for the next day. And they're like, oh, I have to go take my kid to soccer. And I'm like, all right. And they're like, you have to set your time management. And that was one thing that the company also focuses on, is that work-life balance. And so I said, okay, if he can take, very, high-level position person can take his kid to soccer, then I can go back to school. And that's what I did. I went back to school, and I just set that, as, telling people that, or, the managers I worked with, all right, well, moving forward, I'm going to go do my MBA. At 6 p.m. I have class, so from 6 to 9 I'm unavailable. And it was just because I was very upfront about it and very honest about it. Everybody worked around my schedule to make it work, because at the end of the day, I had to be happy in order to perform my work better. And that's one thing I absolutely love about the company. It just helped me really figure out my work-life balance while working full-time, going to school full-time, and I was also planning my wedding at the same time. So it was a crazy year in 2016. But I made it out alive. I have a degree, and I'm married, and I'm still here. So that's one thing I love about it, is I think, it goes back to, people skills and just being upfront and, talking about what you want. And at the end of the day, you go after what you want out of the company as well, because, you're there also to grow as a person. And by you growing, you're also helping the company grow. So that's one of the things I love about the company. So there you go.
This might sound a bit cliche, but it's very true. It's who you know and what you know. And I promise I will not talk about people, so I will not talk about who. I'm going to talk about what you know. So you're not going to be busy from 9 to 5 every single day. There are a lot of companies, they have a lot of resources out there, whether it's you can talk to people to gain more knowledge in the industry. So I was working in pricing proposals for the Department of Defense. And get to know, read the news, there are also online libraries that the company provides. Do that. Ultimately, you want to become the indispensable worker. So it's what you know, and always update yourself, always, because companies are also bringing new, fresh blood. So that's all.
Good. Great question. And I jotted down a couple of notes, trying to determine which way I want to go with this. Ultimately, it's the people that make the company, so it is tough to answer the question without saying the people. But one thing that I've noticed, and you mentioned this earlier, with the accessibility that you have to executives, quick sort of tangent. Was out at the Rose Bowl this year with our company, and was sitting there having lunch with the CFO and having some conversation, and very natural conversation. Cool that we have access to our C-suite executives, and it wasn't just there. We then had a corporate meeting that I attended and pulled them aside and said, hey, I was thinking about you the other day. I have a client in New York that's relocating out. Our home office is in Milwaukee, relocating out to the Chicago-Milwaukee area. He's a stud. You should interview him. And he's like, yeah, shoot me his resume. And now he's an employee working for the CFO of the company just because of that personal relationship. And it's a buddy of mine, client, et cetera, just by having that accessibility. And it wasn't anything that was uncomfortable. Okay, it wasn't an email I had to put together. It was literally a 3-line email. Hey, I think the world of both of you guys. You guys need to meet each other the next time you're in Milwaukee, and that was it. And so the accessibility to executives is there, which I never knew on the corporate investment banking side. Okay, we didn't have that access. That just wasn't a thing. You talked to your direct manager, and that was about it. And so with Northwestern, as a Fortune 100 company, with the accessibility to those executives has been really cool. And then I'll parlay that in a sense that, and I'm sure you guys have seen this in financial services as well, where you've seen that Northwestern time and time again does the right thing. And it's hard to find in the corporate environment these days. I have personal experiences, clients, where whether you've implemented some risk management strategies and you're working directly with our home office, and time again they do the right thing, which again affords me the ability to go out and do what we do, because we know that we have a company that's going to back us on what we say and put together from our planning perspective.
So the question is, what do I like best about the company I work for?
But you can't say the people.
Yeah, I think I'll take that in two parts. So the first is the parent company I work for is Ameriprise Financial. I think I mentioned earlier, when I first joined, it was American Express Financial Advisors. So why do I like Ameriprise? Let me give you just where we came from. American Express had obviously credit cards. Who's heard of American Express credit cards before? Okay, great, thought so. They also had a travel service company, and they also had a financial services company. So basically, we were bringing in three different places. We're bringing in revenue, and we were getting less revenue than we were contributing to the blue box. So it wasn't a good deal for us. So in 2004, we spun off from American Express, became our own independent Fortune 500 company, Ameriprise Financial. Scary when that happened, like I said, because, hey, I work for American Express. I got a name that I'm working for, and then Ameriprise was this new company. But the amount of resources that the company was able to devote to the growth of that company has been tremendous. So I love the company for what they've done for that. There is no other division that we have. We are the division of the company. And specifically what I do, the independent side, drives about 85% or north of 85% of the company's revenue. So they're very dedicated to supporting us. So the amount of technology improvements we've had, you may have even seen commercials. There was commercials during Monday Night Football. The amount of support, back office, everything legal, anything we need, the amount of support that we've gotten when we became an independent company and not part of another company has been tremendous. So I enjoy the company Ameriprise Financial that I work for and the support that they've given me. And again, going from a brand new company to where we are today, I've really enjoyed that process. Then where I work now, independent for Ameriprise Financial, Whitlock Wealth Management, I think it's been mentioned several times, but it's the flexibility. And that doesn't mean we're not working and we're going out golfing. I think this job can have hours from 5 to 9 as much as it can have hours from 9 to 5. Is that a fair statement? No one cares if you're up at midnight doing the work or 2 a.m. You get the work done is the most important thing. So it's not that we're not working, but that does afford us a lot of flexibility. Again, if you have a child or a wedding you want to make, certain things have to happen during certain hours. You can make those hours available in your day as long as you're getting your work done. So I think that's another tremendous thing about, and obviously you have good people around you who help and support you. But yeah, the flexibility is probably one of the best things about the company I work for.
I can't say much different than what they've been saying here. They're pretty true. Mutual Omaha has been around since 1909, and they're a heartland company. If you've ever been out to the Midwest, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If not, you need to go. People are warm, friendly, and caring, and that's one thing I love about what they do. They really try to make sure what we do is there for them and for the people, as well as giving us the flexibility to do what we want to do, when we want to do it, and how we want to do it. We don't have to go one avenue. That's the nice part about our business. It's multifaceted. So they give us many avenues in which to pursue. If we want to deal with businesses, we want to deal with mom and pops, we want to deal with securities, we want to deal with insurance, all those things are in there. So it gives us a lot of flexibility to do what we want. And probably the most fun job I've ever done in my life.
Thanks. Just one thing, the guys touched on it, but I think it's really important. When they talk about flexibility, one of the reasons I know, because I've heard you talk about it as far as why you got flexibility, and you alluded to it, is a lot of times you get flexibility because you have an employer that trusts you and you earn that trust. So it's, as you said, you're not just going and playing golf. They're saying you can go to graduate school, you can go to the soccer game, or you can go take care of your baby, because we know that when that's done, we trust that you'll get the work done. So it's really earned, and it's nice to have where you have that flexibility, but I think it's important, especially I'm always impressed, particularly with kind of the new graduates, that they really earn that, and so I think that's part of it. Let's go to an application type question. When applicants are coming through, during the interview process and during the application process, we'll make it a two-parter, and you can answer one or both. What are some of the things that impress you, that help someone stand out, from all the other qualified applicants? And then second, what are some things that you've seen that have turned you off and basically ruined somebody's chances getting a job with your company? So why don't we start with Amante, and then we'll go that way.
Wow, best things, worst things in an interview, huh?
Interview app, the whole it's kind of open, so you can kind of pick and choose from your own experiences.
Yeah, so the best thing is, let me think here. Obviously, being able to communicate is a very important thing, but I think, like some of my colleagues have said, there's not necessarily one career path in these industries. So there's a lot of different things you could do. So it doesn't mean anyone who comes in is not fit for this job. There could be a certain sliver of that they're excellent at, right? Not everyone needs to be a people person. You don't need to go ahead and face people. You have a financial planning division, I'm sure. I'm sure you have an investment management arm, just like we do, right? So you can specialize within the company. So I don't. The best thing is probably flexibility, adaptability, quick wit, intelligence. You got to be able to show all those sort of things. And when you go to your first job interview, I think a lot of people are, or even your 15th or 1,000th job interview, I think a lot of people are nervous. Don't be nervous. Just convey who you are. You'll get through the interview. Again, I think there's, so is there a bad thing to do? I don't know necessarily. There's so many different career avenues you could do. But conveying confidence, no matter what you want to do, I think is probably the most important thing you could do. I don't know if anyone's ever don't say anything illegal you've done. That would probably blow an interview. Don't say any bad habits you have. But be intelligent, be confident, be honest, and there's definitely a spot. I'm sure everyone says, there's a lot of different, even on this panel, we all kind of specialize in different things. And we don't represent the entirety of our companies. There's a lot of people behind us who have different functions. So I guess that's my answer.
What I look for. Things that we need is obviously appearance and being able to network, have people skills is things that we look for. There's a little bit of a process we go through in onboarding somebody. We don't hire just everybody. We want to make sure that there's a good fit for that person as well as for us. One of the negative things, I guess, could be showing up in an interview in jeans. It's not a good deal. Or, as you alluded, criminal background. This is a regulated industry, so therefore you do have to have a clean background. It is important because we are scrutinized by the FBI as well as everybody else. But on that side, what I look for on onboarding is a process of going through and doing an interview initially, getting a little bit of an evaluation. There's sort of it's not a personality test, but there's an exam you take to see if your probability of being successful is there. And that's a good thing because that tells you, are you looking in the right direction for yourself? And that's important. Timing's everything, too. I know I interviewed with MetLife back in 1977. They kicked me out of the office, said I wasn't suitable for the business. Here I sit 25 years later in the industry, and I love it. So maybe back then I wasn't ready, But the point is, we go through an onboarding process. We look at a lot of the things that you have, your network, things that you can work with. And once we decide that it's a good fit and you feel it's a good fit, then we can onboard the person and get things going towards education.
All right, so one of the many things that I help out with at Accenture is actually recruiting here at George Mason. So I've seen tons of things that you can do and cannot do. So as far as what we look for as a company, we don't care what your major is, truth be told. Unless you're in a very technical role where it's like a systems analyst and we require some technical background. I've seen people come in finance with history majors. I've seen people go into, management consulting with biology majors. It really doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, it's your willingness to learn. Just like I was writing requirements as a finance major, I was willing to learn. And it's that enthusiasm that you bring to the workplace. And it's just, at the end of the day, we're always looking for innovative ideas. And sometimes it takes somebody from a different major to come up with some really cool idea that no one else has thought about before. And so when I come to the recruiting events, every now and then, and get to meet some of the students, talk about, what I do day to day, and, having my experience, from the delivery side and now more internal over in the finance side, I see, all sorts of different things that personally I think is just more of like the millennials, I think, that are going up and coming out. And so one of the things that I personally was not a big fan of is just a sense of entitlement that some students think that they're going to graduate and just be handed a job. And I've personally had a student come up to me and say, well, why should I choose your company over other companies? And what is it that you're going to offer me? And why should I come work for you? And I thought that was an interesting question. I get it. You want to learn more about the company, and you want to I'm obviously being very honest here, because I understand you want to learn more about the company, and that's why we host these events and we come out to campus and we want you to come learn about Accenture and all the other companies that are here today. But there's also a way where you also have to show the employer what it is that you're going to offer them and what it is that you learned here in school that you're going to help benefit the company. And, if anyone else here disagrees with me, please, say something. But at the end of the day, I think if you show the company what you're capable of and what you're there to offer them, at the end of the day, you can negotiate what you want out of them, and whether that is a salary, a bonus, vacation, PTO, whatever it is. So I think my advice is be personable. When you come up and talk to the recruiters and talk to the people that come here on campus for the recruiting events, and talk about what you want, what you're looking for in a company, but ask it in a way that you're not coming out as you're basically entitled to be handed a job once you graduate. That's basically what I'm getting at.
My advice would be that do not party the day prior to that and never show up late. Your resume is a piece of paper, but it's legitimately your face. Never show up with a crumpled resume. That's not very good. And also show passion. Truly do your research. There's like Glassdoor.com, so that you know what the salary range is. Negotiation is very important as a soft skills. Because at the end of the point, you have to negotiate your salary with the HR representative. Don't do too many business jargons with the HR, because they may not know, and it might become a little bit awkward. It's just really, you need to spend hours in front of your laptop researching about a company. If you know someone who is the current employee of that company, talk to them, grab coffee. Don't be afraid. We're young, and you guys are young. So this is a time to really make mistakes. It's okay. Go out, challenge yourself, and don't be afraid, because we all know we were once in your spot, in your shoes. So thank you.
Yeah, that's spot on. Spot on. I wish Megan, who's in the back over here, were up here, because she certainly sees a ton more resumes than I do. Quick plug, Megan is our director of internship coordinating and onboarding. And but in our conversations, as we're looking at resumes, one thing I would add to what's been said here, which I certainly agree with, is as you're coming out of school, obviously if there's internships, that's certainly applicable. But something on the resume that sticks out to me would be, whether it's applications, whether it's technical applications, et cetera. Something that stands out in a sense that maybe it was a challenge that you overcame, but it's got to be short. It's I worked with this class. This was my project, a project in reference to a class. Something along those lines that says, hey, I applied this class in a very real in real terms. And that's just a tidbit. Again, a resume is one page, maybe front and back, so you're not going to put everything, but it's a talking point that I can bring up in an interview that's going to help me learn more about you. Does that make sense? So it's more of a feeder into what I'm going to ask you that you can speak on. All right, so you're dictating what I'm going to ask by the resume. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's a tidbit. What I've been really impressed with, and I would encourage all of you to do, first and foremost, if you're in this room, you got a leg up already. If you're looking in this space, you already got a leg up. All right, let's grasp that. Let's take that. Let's move on. You have phenomenal professors. You have you have the name behind the background. It carries a lot of weight in this space. So already come in to the interview confident that you're a leg up. Okay, so that's first and foremost. Secondly, I guess that's second because I started with it anyway. But thirdly, do homework. Know who you're interviewing with. All right, with social media these days, I mean, with the background Glassdoor, understanding what's the company about. All right, what's being written about it? Look at my LinkedIn page. If you're interviewing with me, look at my LinkedIn page. All right, Google search me. All right, know who you're talking to prior, because those conversations are more personal. I'm going to remember you if you're going to bring up, oh, you played ball in college, cool. All right, like when you're meeting with Megan in an interview, she went to Mason, she played soccer here. That's cool, right? How was that? How'd you do class? I mean, how was class and athletics? How'd you do that, right? So making it personable where I can remember you, all right, just sets you above and beyond. But just know you should have the confidence going into the interview with what you've done thus far, okay? And so if I take anything away, confidence exudes. Like it's certainly there. Turned off, they've all said it. Like the stuff you already know, right? The stuff you already know. Turned off, arrogance, like not a big fan. But yeah, it's do what you do that got you here, right? And I think that's a big takeaway.
Thanks. I wanted to follow up on one thing. A lot of great stuff, but one thing that Aubrey said that I've heard stories about, and I'm curious from Jenny and Chima if this came up in your case, is talking to Professor Canterbury, who teaches the valuations class, which is a very applied class, a lot of work in Excel. She has told me numerous stories where she talks to students who go to interviews, start talking about what they're doing in that class, and that is the end of the interview. It just the interviewer had all these questions they never get to. They're busy asking about the project, the things that they did. And so the feedback I get is when you go and talk about things that you did, things that you applied, it works wonders. And I don't know if that happened with you guys when you guys were on the market interviewing, because I know, Chima, I think you took that class. Jenny, did you take her class too?
I think it's a great class, personally. I wish I had the advanced version. I can tell you from personal experience, I actually got to use that project in my MBA, and I just derived from it, so that was really awesome. But when I come to the recruiting events, we have a lot of students that can't afford to go get an internship and work a retail job, and it's not necessarily something that they want to be in the rest of their lives. And so what it comes down to, bringing that experience to the interviews, talk about the project you've worked on, and I see that a great deal. And you have to be able to demonstrate some type of teamwork, some type of team leading, and some type of project that you worked on. As it's just like as if you were working in an internship, working on a team, working on a specific project. So yes, I definitely think projects are a great deal to talk about during interviews. So
now I'm going to ask a different kind of question to these guys, because a lot of their questions, a lot of their answers have demonstrated the success and competence and the great jobs that they've done. So what career mistake have you made that's given you a lesson that's been really valuable and you've taken from that and moved forward? So does anyone want to volunteer to start? Okay, so then we'll just work our way up the...
Career mistake, I think... So back in the day, I used to be super shy. Like, I would not even speak unless I'm spoken to. Like, it was so bad. And I think my mistake back then is not being able to step out of my comfort zone. What was the second part of your question?
And then what you learned from it. Yeah.
Okay. And so I think ultimately back then is I had so many opportunities handed to me. My first internship is working at the Fairfax County Chamber of Commerce, which is now the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce. And I was in a position where I was able to network because I was in the membership department where there were so many networking events. And I had this opportunity where I could have spoken to so many people, but I always just hid in the back and just didn't do anything about it and just, let all these super awesome people, just walk in front of me, and I just, didn't take a chance because I was too afraid. And so when I came to George Mason, that was one of the things I really worked on is, how to get better and how to, get out of my comfort zone. And I think it was a panel like this that I attended, and someone said this, and it resonated with me, and I still say it to this day to everybody, is create a networking card. And I was like, what the heck is a networking card? And it's basically your own business card. So you're not necessarily putting anything on it other than your name, your major, and when you're graduating, and then a link to your LinkedIn, because your LinkedIn is literally your virtual resume. And so then I was like, okay, this is really cool. And so I started going to networking events, and and people were like, oh, do you want my card? And I'm like, yeah, sure, do you want my card? And they're like, you have a card? And I'm like, yeah. And so this goes back to Aubrey's point where, do something that, people remember you by, and this was one thing that people really remembered me by, because then when I'd go and talk to them a second time, like, oh yeah, you're the one with the card, and then if I add them on LinkedIn, then they find me on LinkedIn sometimes. And so that was one thing that I thought, that I'm so glad I came to one of these events, and that's why I love coming back to these events and doing it from the other side, is that I personally learned from it. I mean, granted, maybe I passed on some opportunities when I was during the internship back then, and I didn't take on take on the benefit of networking and all the people I had access to. But I think I learned from that, and it brought me to where I am today. So.
One career mistake I made was that you will want to intern for the boss. So choose your boss wisely, because he or she will impact your life and can really either uplift you or go negative. So it was my internship opportunity. I won't say the company, but it's very important to choose your boss. I think choose your boss wisely, because sometimes you don't need to be so desperate for a job or internship. Sometimes you have to think things strategically. It's okay to turn down a first job offer, because a lot of times have a positive attitude really change your life. One door closes, two doors open. That's all.
That's great. It's I can parlay that. In a sense, it's not just about you taking a job. Okay, it's got to be mutually beneficial. The company has to want you. You have to want to be at that company. So I think that's a great point, Jenny. The one thing I would encourage, I like to think of myself as a team player. Worked on group projects together in school, etc. I was never much of one to really to talk about myself, okay, which, in general terms, like, you don't want to be hanging out and all, the guy, or the gal in the room just talks about herself, right? You don't want to hang out with that guy, right? In a corporate setting, however, one mistake I made was not speaking up about what I had done, my projects, how I had bettered our team, and essentially got passed up for a position. This was in New York, and for an individual who made it, well aware of what she did, and she was an impressive individual. But I thought I was there with her. But because I didn't speak up about myself, what I had done to help the team and my projects, and what I had taken on, the extracurriculars that I had done, and sort of just my thought was, I'll get recognized. I'm going to do a great job. I'll just get recognized. That was a career move that I didn't do, that I wish I could go back and replay. And so I certainly encourage you to, again, not be annoying and talk about yourself, but certainly there is an appropriate time and an appropriate manner to make managers know that what you're doing and how you're helping the team and what you're bringing to the table. And so I think I couldn't advocate for that more. And unfortunately, I had to learn that from being in that position.
So one thing that comes to mind is rational and irrational. So let's say I'm looking at the price of the market, and I think the market should be priced at X. There's a saying in our industry that the markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. So being right isn't always necessarily the right answer. And my colleague had mentioned something about EQ before. So I'm not sure. EQ as opposed to IQ is talking about your emotional competence. How well can you handle these sort of things when you know the answer should be X and everything is going against that? So that is part of the job, being able to handle those things. So one thing I learned early in the career was kind of put things into kind of three buckets. The things that you can control, the things you can influence, and then the things you have no control over. And you have to understand that there are some things like traffic, the weather, what the market does today, yesterday, tomorrow. I can't control what those things do. But what I can influence is how I react to that, how my clients react to that, what decisions we make off of that. And then I can control my actions. What am I doing to study this, to prepare? What am I analyzing? Where are my facts? What's my information? So I think that's a very important thing that you have to learn. Early on, you might want to say, no, I'm right. I know the answer is X. But maybe later on in life you realize that, again, you can't control everything. And even in the face of all facts, the markets may decide to do something else. So you have to just say, that's out of my control. What do I know? Okay, I know this, so what can I influence so that people make the best decisions possible?
Well, it's kind of hard to talk about what mistakes you might have made, but the only one I can think of, and it's sort of circling back to something I said before, is a career choice. When I came out of school, I wanted to make money. I took a job. I had a boss. Bosses always tell you to do more. And I did. I worked. I lived day by day, paycheck by paycheck, and whatever. But I really wasn't happy. And that's where I learned when I fell into this industry. It fit me personally. Now, that's important. It fit me. Not that it will fit you. Maybe it will. But I found something I love. And mistake coming out of college, life is short. Goes by pretty quick. So you got to find your path that you really want to do. And I can't express more of looking inside yourself. Reflect on what you want to do. Where's your heart? Where's your brain? And follow that. Don't deviate. Okay?
Thanks. So I have one more question, and then we'll turn it over for you guys. This one's for Chima, and then after she answers, the rest of you guys can chime in from your perspective, either as an employee or as a supervisor. So in your experience, you're at work, your supervisor asks you to do something, you don't know how to do it. How do you respond to that situation?
You Google it. I actually had when I first got in with Accenture as a functional analyst, with the requirements and whatnot. One of the first things that my boss asked me is to put together a Visio diagram, and I was like, "What the heck is Visio?" And so I Googled it literally, and I learned how to make a Visio, and it was awesome. But aside from that, not everything obviously is Googleable. But I would say personally, ask around. Everyone's there to help you. I think it helps when it makes you look better when you take that initiative and ask. It doesn't matter who you ask, whether you ask your colleague who's the same level as you or you ask your upper management. I guess in my personal experience, everybody is approachable. We have an open door policy no matter what the level of the person is, but definitely raise your hand if you have a question. Don't sit on it. Don't try to figure it out if you can't figure it out. Obviously try, but if you can't don't waste so much time trying to figure it out, but essentially sometimes it's just a very simple question. I work with Excel every single day, and it could be like a very simple function that I just completely cannot think of it, and I'd sit there and fight with Excel for like literally 2 hours, and I'll finally raise my hand. They're like, "Oh, Chima, you just have to do this." I'm like, wow. So definitely raise your hand, I say.
Thanks. Anyone have any other Go ahead, Jenny.
I just want to add a comment. Make friends. Make friends at your work. Your coworkers should be your friends. Your boss should be your friends. Everyone be friends with everyone because you never know when the next opportunity is and when the next challenge is. You might need them for help. And it's just friends will take you far. It's who you know. And if you don't know something, a lot of when I was at CGI Federal, because I was an entry-level pricing analyst, CGI Federal has a system. It's called mentor and mentee system. A lot of companies have this in place. So someone who might be a senior analyst might be assigned to you as your mentor. As soon as you know who she or he is, look them up on LinkedIn and so on. And as soon as you see them, ask them for coffee. The minute you sit there, they start to judge you. And they're thinking, wow, okay, who is she and who is he? And a lot of times, companies have this peer review system. It might be quarterly. At CGI Federal, it was quarter interviews. And those are interviews where they're saying, they evaluate you based on your project, based on your work. So be prepared the minute you sit there. Thank you.
Yeah, the beauty of Northwestern is you come in the door, you immediately have a team of specialists that you're assigned to. So you're assigned to a team of five advisors that you can go to, and it's encouraged. So I think we're able to tackle that pretty head on because we inevitably we know that there are going to be questions. And to comment on some of the previous comments, and in a sense, a little bit of humility goes a long way. Okay, and understanding that we don't know everything, and we don't, as a manager, we don't expect you to know everything, and so that's why we give you a team of specialists to go to ask questions, etc. But if I could say anything, that humility isn't a bad thing.
So I've never been offended by anyone asking me a question. I think when we start a new job, we're worried about asking questions because it may look like we don't know what we're doing, we don't belong here. Hey, I just got the job, I don't want to be fired because I asked the question, and I look and they're like, geez, wait, maybe we shouldn't have hired this guy. But again, whenever anyone's asked me a question, I never feel offended by it. I'm like, oh, wow, that person views me as an expert. I'm honored. Now, I don't know the answer, Google it. I'm kidding, but no one is ever offended by a question. In fact, we feel honored sometimes that someone would look at us as an expert where we can provide value. And again, I think it's mostly in our own head. It's in between our ears that says, I shouldn't ask this question. I should know the answer. I don't know stuff every day. I'm still learning every day. There is so much more that I don't know. And that's the process of life, learning. So, that's what you're here today, and hopefully you learn something by being here. But I think we're going to have questions and answers here in a little bit, but don't be afraid to ask questions. No one expects you to know everything. I certainly don't know everything. I have a great team of people. I rely on them all the time for various different types of questions. They come to me. It is, like they said, get to know your coworkers, trust your coworkers, realize you're all within those four walls, you're all on the same team. You may have different roles, but your goals are all the same. You're driving one company forward, one group forward. So don't be afraid to ask questions. The only bad question is the one that doesn't get asked. Ask your questions.
I think everything's been said pretty much what it is. It comes down to how curious are you and how good do you want to be, So if you really want to strive and do really well, by all means ask. I mean, I have to ask people too. Like I said, we don't know everything, and this is a business in our industry. It's so vast, you'll never master 100% of it anyway. So that's why we rely on specialists. But when we handed a project, if I hand one of my subordinates something to do, I expect them to be able to do it. And if they don't, I expect them to come to me and ask, what's the problem? And I always make that an open door policy. Come to me. If you're having challenges, let me know. Where's the problem? We'll try to fix it and resolve it. And if I don't know the answer, we're going to go to somebody and get it. But there's always an answer to every problem out there. And we just have to look for it. It's that simple. Fair enough?
Thanks. So now we'll turn it over to you guys for questions. So if you have a question, raise your hand. And then let me repeat the question so the microphone catches it, and then so it goes into the recording.
I have a question for Mr. For your concept of humility, you talked about how you got passed on by a job. So what's the line between showing them why you deserve it. Like, how do you fight for it, and how do you overcome that situation? Because you might do something with like a lot of ambition, but you don't know how to,
So the question was about kind of balancing projecting competence and talking about your achievements and accomplishments and skills, and balancing that with humility and how you can project that and convey that in a way that's going to be appealing to somebody as opposed to turn somebody off.
That's a phenomenal question. There is a fine line. I think ultimately it starts with relationships. Okay, so if you have that relationship with a manager, with your superior, or with someone under you, you have that open-ended dialogue that it's not going to appear arrogant. Okay, but when I reference humility, it's humility understanding that we don't know everything. Okay, and so the difference being, this is what I've done, this is what we've accomplished. Okay, and it's all about how we've grown together, and this is what I've done to support that. Okay, and so when I'm having a conversation, it's like it's the dialogue. Okay, where it's the compliment. You've done this really well. This is where I've helped. I think it's an avenue, but it all ultimately it's built from the relationship. If you can have those conversations candidly, you're so much farther ahead than trying to tiptoe around that. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's more of a technical question. Blockchain is making a lot of advances in accounting. How do you feel like that's going to influence your field and your line of work?
So the question is, with the advances that blockchain is making, how do the panel think that that's going to influence their work and their fields?
Well, working at Accenture as a technology company, we're always looking for the next innovative idea, whether that's blockchain or artificial intelligence or whatever it may be. We one of the things we opened is a digital studio out in DC for our clients, and is just trying to find the next best thing, how we can get the next innovation, how we would apply it as a business to our clients, and so on. So, it's just figuring out how it would work for the business, whether it's applicable or not.
Anybody else have a question? So the question was directed to Chima, but I think anyone can ask if they encountered similar issues. How she got over her shyness.
Well, I can tell you, I just started going to random networking events here on campus, and it was just a goal of mine, that I just needed to overcome. And so I told myself every event that I would go to, I would speak to at least like one person. I just raised the bar every single time, that I just became much more comfortable. And some of the other like internships that I've had, it was just a personal goal. Like I would just say, I'm going to talk to this one person, and then next time, and I'm going to get their business card, and I'm going to somehow create a relationship with that person. And it was just slowly becoming, just a natural thing, that it was totally okay. And just don't be afraid of rejection. And sometimes it really helps if you go to networking events and bring a friend. Bring a friend, because you already have that one person that and then conversation just kind of leads to another conversation, and just join other groups, and then other groups would join you, and it's just, you slowly just kind of get out of your comfort zone.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, I noticed that you guys have a lot of education, like possibly having like 2 degrees and stuff. And you guys some of you went on to get your master's. How far do you think just having a finance major can get you?
So the question is basically how far a finance degree would get you in the industry versus the need to get additional degrees or certifications.
I'll go first. Or you want to go? You go.
Yeah. In our industry, it's a never-ending learning process. In fact, we promote 5 hours a day in education, so an hour a day for 5 days a week, right? We have a lot of industry designations. Some of you may have seen people in our field that have letters behind their names. We encourage the entire alphabet. So, and we pay for those courses. That's a good thing, because we want you educated. But it's an ongoing process. Again, this is a vast business, so having more degrees is not a bad thing. Having more education is never going to be a bad thing, because the more you know, the more you can help people. Fair enough?
So it definitely depends, I think, which field you're going to be going into. But speaking for my industry, so having just a finance degree that's what gets you started. Because once you're started, we're going to have to test you and get you licensed on a whole bunch of different things anyway. So you're going to need to get your securities license, life insurance license, state law license. I'm a CFP as well. So again, there's also a CRPC. So there's other advanced designations you can get. So there's going to be so much more education that happens kind of within your realm that you're focusing on. That the finance degree is a great start, but then you're going to have specific training to what you're doing.
Can I add on to that? I personally didn't do an MBA just because it got me further in the company. It was just for my own benefit to do. But one of the things that our company offers is like learning boards and knowledge like database that you can just go and just teach yourself whatever it is that you're interested in that is available to you. I can tell you from my personal team, there's tons of managers and senior managers who don't have a second degree. So at the end of the day, sometimes an experience is more valuable than getting a second degree. So it's whatever you want to do with it.
So I think we have time for one more question. Either if someone out there has one, they can ask it, or I can ask the last one. Oh, go ahead.
What set of skills in specific do you look for in a finance employee or like an intern or something? What crucial skills, what core competencies are required?
So the question is for a finance person coming into their jobs, what are some of the core competencies, the core skills that you guys are looking for?
Yeah, I think you got to understand, if you're a finance major, you got to understand numbers, but I think we've said it a lot too, it's the people skills too. You got to be able to that's the big thing. You have to show us your people skills, how you're able to not only know the book information, but how do you interact with us? Because you're going to be interacting with other people, whether that's a corporate level person, whether that's a client on the street, or whatever the case might be. How do you interact? So conveying enthusiasm, so not just the intelligence, but the enthusiasm. And that you're someone who's fun to work with, someone that we would want to be on our team. We want to help you succeed. So that interpersonal part is just as important as here's all my degrees and majors and everything like that. That's extremely important. But what else we look for is we want you, if we're hiring you, we want you to want to be on our team, and we're going to want you to be on our team. So that interpersonal.
Don't forget Microsoft Excel.
Microsoft Excel.
So actually, I'm going to ask the last question because I'll throw it open to you guys. We've covered a lot, so we may be covering grounds, but basically kind of closing words, what's one last piece of advice that when these guys, they go back and the roommates say, what'd you pick up at that panel? This is kind of the one takeaway they get. And so we can start with David and kind of work our way down. And then after that, we'll open it up for some mingling and some networking.
So you're looking for advice for
these guys, kind of the one thing that you want them to take out of this.
Well, I've already said it. I mean, it's following your dream. Again, life is short, so you want to be able to find a opportunity that you're going to have fun and laugh your way through your career, right? You got to smile. You got to wake up every day saying, "I want to go to work," right? It's important to know what makes you happy. What is your dream? And if it's a sports thing, go do sports. I mean, whatever it is, I majored in physics. A lot of good it did, right? But my point is, I got an education. I ended up going out into the world and finding eventually what my dream was. Thank goodness, because there's a lot of people go through life and never have that. So, only thing I can say. Think carefully what you want. Pay attention to it and follow your own dream. If somebody offers you $250,000 a year and you hate your job, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? Money doesn't buy happiness. So you got to find the job you love. Fair enough?
Absolutely agree. First step, finding that job you love. So don't be afraid to send out a million resumes. Your job, you're not going to be. You can date your job first before you decide to marry it, but you might need to date a couple times before you find that job you're really passionate about. because it's going to be 30, 35, 40 years of working. So again, you want to make sure that you like that industry that you're in, and it's not 40 years of a grind. The other thing I'd say is I think we said it seems like a lot of people here mentioned we have a quality of life, a very good quality of life. So I would encourage you to look at any one of these sort of financial services field, particularly toward my financial services field. I will mention there's a big need for people just like you. So right now there's baby boomers retiring, and the average age of advisors isn't young. It's typically around the 60 years of age. So a lot of the older advisors in my industry are retiring as well. So we have this huge wave of retiring people that need financial advice in my industry. We have a lot of financial advisors who are retiring as well and looking to bring on junior brokers so we can train you, have you buy into the practice, or help us with managing some of the clients we've acquired over the years. So there's a big need for young professionals who are interested in doing this type of work. So don't be shy about looking at these financial services companies, some that are represented here.
The fastest growing industry in the United States right now. Number one job to go after, if that's what you want.
Yes, I second everything that was just said, and I said this earlier, but certainly walk away with the full confidence that you're getting a heck of a degree here.
Definitely.
Okay, and so take that into interviews with full confidence. Not that you deserve every position that you interview for, okay, but you have the tools, all right, and it's often not what you learn, but it's you're learning how you learn. And continue to carry that on, not just, again, we talk about continued learning multiple times, but not just what you've done to get the job, but it's continue and thrive once you have the job. And that's certainly what I've learned over the years as far as you've put yourself in a great position to get the job. All right, how are you going to thrive once you're there?
So I just thought about it. I wrote 5 things. The first one I think that is that think before you act. I'm sorry, in the workplace, a lot of people don't think before they act. And if they had thought thoroughly before their action, a lot of troubles could have been avoided. Think in the long term. I think this was a quote paraphrased by Jack Ma, and he said that you cannot compete against someone the next day, but you can compete against that person in the long run. So read news a lot, watch out what's current, and look forward, and look at the next trend. I think someone mentioned about blockchain. It's a very good job. Read ambitiously. Warren Buffett is successful because he reads religiously every single day. He spends hours and ambitiously. And I think also Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg, I think 1 year he made a New Year resolution saying that he will read a book every 2 weeks, even though he's extremely busy. Have a mentor for both professional and personal help. Have a mentor who is more experienced, someone who's maybe like 40 or 50s, because they have been there before, and they could tell you a lot of advice that you could avoid and not make the same mistakes that he or she made. And this one is a paraphrase quote from Steve Jobs, one of the commencement. He said that life is connecting dots. Just to share a very short story, he actually learned calligraphy when he was young. You might think, okay, what does calligraphy have to do with computer science? Later on, when he founded his company, calligraphy was a huge success to him because calligraphy made those fonts look beautifully. So that's how we got the fonts, because he learned calligraphy. So do try out different things. Travel a lot, see different things. You can learn so much from other parts of the world. Travel ambitious as well. Starbucks founder, he actually went to Italy, and he realized that people in Italy actually enjoy their coffee. So right now, today, Starbucks isn't just a coffee shop. It's a pop culture of the United States. So do travel a lot, see things. And he was able, because of his trip to Italy, he brought back that culture and made himself a millionaire because of that. So do travel a lot, read a lot. Thank you.
I say if you can do different internships, which is one of the things that I personally am glad I did, is different internships in different fields of finance, if you are finance majors, just to get you an idea of what's out there. like what was mentioned before, is date your job right before you marry it. And if you can't get an internship, I say I know in finance, there's lots of different electives that you can take, experience, challenge yourself. Because if you don't do it now, it's a lot harder to do it later. When you apply for a job and you get into a job, it's not as easy to get out of it as when you do it in an internship where it's like a 3-month thing. You do it, you don't like it, but at least you got the experience and you realize it's not your thing, and then you're on to the next thing. And my other piece of advice is, I can tell you one of my really good friends is somebody I met through LinkedIn who reached out to me as a student. Who was just like 2 years younger than me, and she just wanted some advice on classes that she's taking at Mason as a finance major that I already took. So don't be afraid to find people that you're interested in talking to or learning more about, to just literally send them a message and ask them to grab a coffee. You would be surprised how many people will actually respond to you. And don't forget your networking cards. You can get them for free at Vistaprint or something. Yeah, Vistaprint. That's how I got mine. So, yeah.
So thank you. I want to thank the panel. I thought they provided a lot of tremendous advice and experience and a lot of things for you guys to think about. So they are here to meet you. So I encourage you guys to come on up, introduce yourselves, ask more questions, and take advantage of the opportunity that we've got these great folks here to talk with you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Monte Castro.
Nice to meet you. I kind of walked in late to every class, but I got from the summary and the purpose.
Yeah, I really need you because like looking at resumes and even recruiting.
Yep. Well, I think you asked questions about how to interview. I think you did exactly. First of all, I think you're doing the right kind of interview. You showed up, you dressed the part, and you're not afraid to ask questions, right? That's the big thing. And like my colleague to my left was mentioning too, maybe do a little bit of homework too about the company you're interviewing in, just so you have a couple background questions. There's a fine line between being a
Yeah, I'm in the market, so I'm there too.
You want to know a little bit about them, but it looks like you got the right.
Sure. And I'm not going to interrupt, but it was good seeing you again.
And just know a couple little questions to ask.
I want to know.
From Nichols. Hi.
My name is Alexis.
Alexis, nice to meet you. Yes. So it's still part of Ameriprise. It's just a private wealth advisory practice. So basically, the way my company works is,
There are offices around, but those are just meeting rooms. They're not.